all votes.
Baylor has a new tight ends coach. Jarrett Anderson joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. Jarrett, great to hear from you. You and I have known each other a long, long time. You were a part of Tyler Junior College, and then, of course, I leaned on you a couple of times when you were at TCU during those great teams back at the Rose Bowl and more, in trying to get your perspective on what Baylor was at that time as they were trying to, find some traction. Did you ever think there would be a time you would actually be coaching at Baylor?
I think wearing green, I've got a lot of former players that have already called me from East Texas and areas that I've recruited and called me a traitor already. But I said, you know what? I said, you just got to be able to come down a little further south. And I said, you'll see the traitor when it comes to game day. But no, they're all good. All my kids that played for me, I said they're all appreciative of it.
You brought up an area that you know a lot about. I don't know what region you'll get. I'm sure that's something that has already been discussed. But you found diamonds in the rough, as I called them. Really good football players that sometimes people didn't know too much about. And then they ended up being stars at TCU and elsewhere. What was that like? And is that something that was kind of your, not legacy, but something that you're more proud of?
I mean, it's probably a lot of times that you probably had some kids that were first generation college kids and things like that, and seeing them walk across the stage and the success they had on the football field and some of the things that they're able to give back, and from Kilgore to Longview, I mean, some of the areas of East Texas, and even, and Tyler from that standpoint, I said it's one of those things that you're proud of as a coach, but also as a person, that you see them successful in life besides just football.
Coach, with the new offense with Jake Spavital, who we had on the show yesterday, coming in, and the tight end position's responsibilities will morph. I don't want to say change. They'll morph into something different. What do you expect to see? What is different that you can tell fans that they can see out of that position from the last zone read offense or the wide zone offense to this one?
Well, we kind of had our first kind of meetings today and just talking about it, and I said, you're going to have to be physical, and you're also going to have to play fast. You're also going to have to be able to do things with the football. I said, you're asked to do things with the football, but I said, you're going to have some accountability on both ends, from the throwing game and the running game. And it's always not going to be outside zone. There's going to be some different avenues that you'll have to do.
Coach, Jake told us that you guys, or at least in his case, had been on the road and met the prospects more than he'd actually met the guys on the team and spent time around them. What was that like to just be able to be around the guys and start the getting to know process and the importance of all that?
Oh, it's good. I'm glad they're all wearing their names with their shirts on.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know my tight end room, but I said everybody else, I said, guys from different parts that you'd recruited before at the other place. And I said, it's funny. I said, they need to wear this every day for the next few weeks while we're on the road.
Yeah, like back in the days of high school when they had the whatever across your front of your helmet, your name, when you had to learn the player. Jarrett, you're in the tight ends room. They've lost some tight ends. They've gained some tight ends too. What is your role compared to what that offense is with that specific position?
You know what? I told them, I said, you know what? I wasn't part of the other two. The other couple of kids that kind of left here. So I said, I can't say anything about it. I said, I can only look at film and kind of go from there. And I told them, I said, we're moving forward with it. I said, the guys that we have in here are good enough. I said, we're either winning with you or because of you, or we're winning with you. And I said, I want to win because of you. And I said, I have an expectation for you. And I said, it's one of those things that I'm going to demand perfection. So when you get on game day, that you get to go play fast and you get to have a great time.
What are your impressions of your early going with Dave Aranda? And he's just such a unique dude, especially when it comes to the coaching world. I don't know if there's a fair comparison to him out there as far as the way he approaches things.
Yes, I coached against him and only had to do a handshake, and finally get an interview with him. I can appreciate some of the things and some of the values he's instilled in the program, and that's and he demands excellence on the football field and off the football field, and that's there's a lot of guys that preach it, but sometimes don't follow through on it.
How new is this staff and the getting to know process for you with the staff members? Or is there some previous connections that you can kind of go on into already, guys that you knew from years prior, or is this kind of all brand new to you in some ways as well?
Well, I've known Spav for a while, and then I've known Cap. It was funny because he came down, I think, during the Rose Bowl years. They were at Southern Miss. He was with Fedora, kind of going to North Carolina, and kind of did some ball clinic during that time, and Baker, and having got to know the receiver, and then knowing running back and getting to know those guys. But the other two guys I don't know previously.
Jarrett, with your time at UTSA, Jeff Traylor, we've known him, and you know what he's done, and now with your time at TCU and how long you were on the Gary Patterson staff too. You've been around, but you were there longer at TCU. You still have kind of a blend, a chemistry of what you've learned from various people?
Yes. I mean, and I always tell coaches, and I tell young coaches, I said, you can't ever lose the ability to learn. And I said, it doesn't matter if you're learning from a young coach or an older coach. And I said, once you lose that ability, I said, you shouldn't be coaching anymore. And I said, it was good to see different things that Jeff incorporated that I took from and learned from. And there's some good traits. I mean, there's some good traits, and there's always things that you can learn from different coaches on the staff, whether they're young or old. And you build friendships as you're in that room together. So I said, because you have to go through the fight day in and day out when you're going to play that game, whether they're good battles or bad battles from that day.
Jarrett, you went to Lee, right?
Yes, I went to Lee.
That's where Craig went. That's his alma mater. And now, of course, they got a new name. And then you were a part of it for a little bit with Tyler Junior College. Did that help you with the relationships you built once you started recruiting that area?
I think it did. I think it helps that you have familiarity with the parents and stuff back there. As you get older, you even know the parents. And now I've got more. What's even crazier is now I've got former players with me at TCU that are recruiting. I mean, you're recruiting their kids or their nephews from that standpoint, and you know people that know you, and they know what you're about.
They know. I'm sorry. My fault.
They know you're fine. They know that you have substance, and when you come back home, that your family's there too. That you mean what you say, and you say what you mean.
You're about to be inside McLean Stadium, where you've had some exhilarating wins, and you've had a couple of, especially one in particular, loss that probably still eats at you to this day because it was a classic. Have you thought much about that?
You know what? I haven't thought. I think that when we had a recruiting weekend and they said, you need to go to this dressing room, and way to go. And I'm like, guys, I've only been in one dressing room before. I can't tell you where anything else is in this place. All I've seen is one locker room and one tunnel to walk out of. I haven't walked out of any other place.
We have Phil Bennett, who's on our show like every Monday, and Phil, the storytelling, the memories, and all that he's joined us many, many times, and he told me that I needed to bring up with you the not fight like fist fight, but the recruiting battle for Shock Lynwood and how Baylor ended up with him, of course, and had a great career. But what were those battles like? Because Baylor and TCU probably recruited that area better than anybody.
Well, I always told him he had a little cheat sheet with his brother.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He had Jerry on his side. Because Shock at one time was committed to it. But, I mean, it was one of those things that Coach Patterson said, well, I don't know why we're even recruiting with the brother on the other side. He goes, blood's thicker than water.
Yeah. And it was. When you got the call from Coach Aranda, what did it mean to you to get back into the Big 12, but also just to have this opportunity?
Oh, I was excited. I think my son was my 15-year-old was excited even more. Even though he'd grown up at TCU, I think it's wearing on him a little bit to get back into the Big 12. And I said, you know what, it gets me closer to home and closer to my family of where my roots are. And you know what, I enjoyed I said we got a few new teams in the conference, but I said it's great to get to go coach against these guys again from the Oklahoma States and Arizona, knowing guys on Arizona State and Arizona and going against Colorado and some of the new teams in the conference.
How much Paul brought up the Spavital connection now with that, and of course the game that's so wide open. Baylor had gotten away from that since 2016. Is that going to be kind of like teaching another language, or is that really not that big of a deal?
You know what? Kids probably learn the language a lot easier than coaches do sometimes because they have to adjust from what their high school system was to college. From that standpoint, it's probably sometimes the tempo and your demands, and they have to adjust probably to coach speak and the verbiage a little bit, but just adjusting to the different personalities. And we got to adjust to different personalities with the kids too.
Do you like the transfer portal as something that helps fill something up, or it can create a vacuum in a position, whatever position you might coach?
You know what? It's gotten to the point that you live with it and you deal with it. You kind of work at both ends of the spectrum. Sometimes you can, I was at a place last year where, we gained some good kids out of it, but also they lost a kid that went to Texas and lost a kid that went to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those we gained. But what's amazing, that kid came from Sam Houston. So, it wasn't like that. It was almost robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yes, like Craig brought this up, and we've discussed there's a lot of players. We even mentioned somebody today that committed to another school in the Big 12. It's no longer they're from like Estacado High School in Lubbock. They could be from UCLA, Arizona, and then whoever else they commit to.
That's exactly what I told somebody. I said it's probably the only sport right now that you could be a transfer 3 times in one season.
Yep.
Play somewhere in the fall. I said, I'm tired of that. Then I could go to Jeff Traylor in the spring. And I don't like that, then I can transfer again somewhere else and for the next year.
Yeah, Coach, I was saying it's going to make Monday Night Football introductions a lot more confusing. The guys are reeling off like 3 names for schools that they went to,
You know what? That'll be interesting when you see that first guy that gets on there that lists 6 different schools that he went to. Finally makes that call. If he went from junior, he goes high school, junior college, and then you go through the mix. If he had to go through all that situation.
All right, you mentioned, and so did Coach Spavital yesterday, about meeting the kids and actually having that hands-on type chance to get to know them, et cetera. And then next thing you know, and Coach Aranda brought this up. He was in our studio back, I think it was in December, where he said, we're going to hit football like even quicker, like get into the meat of football. There's off-season that's been going on. How long does this take for the getting to know each other? Not just the names, but getting to know each other. Is this going to be a process up until spring drills?
I think it will be a process till spring drills, until you'll get to know them, but until you get the pads on where it gets to be, where it's kind of the crunch time when situations happen or you make a mistake. And I tell them, I said, their mistakes are going to happen, but I said, the mistakes that have to happen can't be a dumb mistake or a mental mistake that you've had time to prepare for.
Jarrett, can you discuss the Ole Miss tight end who transferred in? Is he on campus?
Yes.
Michael Trigg, did you tell us a little bit about what you see in him?
Today was his first day, and he's still learning. So it was kind of he's got to learn that I demand probably more than probably what other people have told him. I think everybody's told him. And he's a very talented young man, but as I said before, I said either you have to take that talent to another level. I said everybody's told you how great you were, but now it's time to actually play great on the field as a college football player.
Man, I love that. I love that. Jarrett, thanks. It's great to hear from you again. It was always cool to lean on you and pick your brain when it came to recruiting, also your time at TCU and now at UTSA and now Baylor. Thanks for your time. Great to have you on the staff here.
I appreciate it.
Jarrett Anderson, Baylor Tight Ends Coach, went to